The steel gates slammed shut with a finality that echoed in Sean's ears. It was a sound that would haunt him, a reminder of the freedom he had lost. The cold, unyielding metal seemed to mock his every step, a constant reminder of the life he once knew. 2010. The year he became inmate number 1047. Maximum security. This wasn't county jail. This was a fortress designed to break the spirit, to crush any hope of escape. The walls were high, the guards vigilant, and the rules unforgiving. This was the belly of the beast, a place where the strong preyed on the weak, and every day was a battle for survival. The yard was a war zone, a place where alliances were formed and broken in the blink of an eye. Fear, a cold fist, gripped his heart. It was a constant companion, lurking in the shadows, ready to pounce at any moment. Every noise, every movement was a potential threat. Trust was a luxury he couldn't afford. He was surrounded by concrete and razor wire, his future a bleak horizon. The days blended into each other, a monotonous routine of survival. The walls seemed to close in on him, suffocating him with their oppressive presence. Survival was the name of the game. He had to stay strong, both physically and mentally. The weak were easy targets, and he couldn't afford to be one. Every day was a test of his endurance, his will to live. He had to adapt, fast. The rules of the outside world didn't apply here. It was a different kind of jungle with its own set of predators and prey. He had to learn the unspoken rules, the subtle cues that could mean the difference between life and death.
The first few weeks were a blur. The days were long, the nights even longer. Sleep was a luxury, and every moment was filled with a gnawing anxiety. The faces around me were hard and unforgiving, each one a reminder of the danger that lurked around every corner. Faces, hard and unforgiving, stared back at me. Each one was a potential threat, a challenge to my existence. The air was thick with tension, a palpable sense of danger that never seemed to dissipate. The air crackled with tension. Every interaction felt like a test, a challenge. A wrong word, a misplaced glance, could set off a chain reaction of violence. It was a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between survival and destruction. Every interaction felt like a test, a challenge. Trust was a rare commodity, and alliances were fragile. A single misstep could mean the difference between life and death. It was a constant game of chess, with each move carefully calculated.
Sean kept his head down, observed, and learned. He watched the dynamics of the yard, the unspoken rules that governed every interaction. He learned who to avoid, who to befriend, and who to fear. He ate his meals in silence, the metallic clang of trays the only soundtrack. The cafeteria was a minefield, a place where tensions ran high and tempers flared. He kept to himself, avoiding eye contact, blending into the background. He clung to the memory of his daughter's laughter, a beacon in the darkness. It was the one thing that kept him going, the one light in the endless night. Her smile, her voice were his lifeline, his reason to survive. He had to survive. For her, every day was a battle, but he couldn't give up. He had to stay strong, to keep fighting, for her sake. She was his anchor, his reason to keep going, no matter how hard it got.
One scorching afternoon, I found myself drawn to the clanging rhythm of metal on metal. It was a sound that reminded me of simpler times, of days spent working with my hands, creating something from nothing. A group of inmates huddled in a corner of the yard, engaged in a fierce game of horseshoes. The game was a rare moment of normalcy, a brief escape from the harsh reality of prison life. It was a reminder that even here, there were moments of humanity.
Sean, drawn by the familiar sound of his childhood, edged closer. The game was a link to his past, a connection to a world that seemed so far away. It was a small comfort, a reminder that he was still human. He watched as a lanky, sharp-eyed inmate named Lemon effortlessly tossed ringers. Lemon moved with a grace and confidence that was rare in this place. A natural leader who commanded respect without demanding it. Lemon, with his quick wit and easy smile, seemed to command respect without demanding it. He was a beacon of hope in a sea of despair, a reminder that even here, there were people worth knowing. Sean, yearning for a connection, a lifeline in this sea of despair, decided to take a chance. He approached Lemon, hoping to find a friend, an ally in this harsh world. It was a risk, but one he had to take. For his daughter's sake, for his own sanity, he had to try.
Mind if I try my luck?
Sure thing, brother. Step right up.
That afternoon, over the rhythmic clang of horseshoes, a bond began to form. Lemon, sensing Sean's naivete, took him under his wing. He taught him the unwritten rules of prison life, the delicate dance of respect and power. He showed him how to read the subtle cues, the unspoken language of the yard. Sean, eager to learn and desperate for a friend, soaked it all in.
We talked about our lives before prison, our families, our dreams. Lemon told me about his aspirations to open a restaurant, his passion for cooking evident in the way he described his grandmother's gumbo.
Lemon listened intently as Sean spoke of his daughter, Maya, and his burning desire to be a father to her. A real father, not the shadow of a man he had been before. As days turned into weeks, their friendship deepened. They had each other's backs, a silent understanding passing between them in the crowded cafeteria and the tense atmosphere of the yard. They were no longer just two inmates thrown together by circumstance. They were brothers, bound by the shared experience of confinement, their friendship a beacon in the darkness. The prison, a microcosm of the world outside, had its own economy. Cigarettes were currency. In this closed-off world where money held no value, cigarettes became the lifeblood of trade. They were more than just a means to an end. They were a symbol of power, a way to assert dominance and gain respect. Ramen noodles, a coveted delicacy. These packets of instant noodles were more than just food. They were a luxury, a rare treat that could be traded for favors or used to build alliances. In the harsh environment of the prison, a simple bowl of ramen could mean the difference between a friend and an enemy. And running the underground store, a position of power and peril, was Lemon. Lemon was a man who had carved out a niche for himself in this unforgiving world. He was the go-to guy for anything and everything, from cigarettes to ramen, from information to protection. His store was a hub of activity, a place where deals were made and alliances were forged. He had a knack for numbers, a mind that could calculate odds and anticipate needs. Lemon's ability to predict the ebb and flow of the prison economy made him an invaluable asset. He knew when to stock up on certain items, when to hold back, and when to strike a deal. His calculations were always precise, his instincts always sharp. He ran the operation with an iron fist, but always with fairness and respect. Lemon's leadership style was a delicate balance of authority and empathy. He knew that in order to maintain control, he had to be both feared and respected. His fairness earned him loyalty, and his respect for others earned him admiration.
You got a good head on your shoulders, Sean. Potential in Sean, a young inmate who had recently arrived. He recognized the same hunger for survival, the same drive to succeed. Lemon knew that with the right guidance, Sean could become a valuable asset to his operation. I need someone I can trust to run the books. Trust was a rare commodity in prison, and Lemon didn't handle the pressure, someone who could keep the operation running. Sharp mind made him the perfect candidate.
Sean hesitated. The weight of the offer hung heavy in the air. He knew that accepting Lemon's proposal would change his life forever. It was a chance to rise above the chaos, to carve out a place for himself in this brutal world. But it was also a risk, a gamble that could end in disaster. He knew the risks involved. The guards were always watching, always waiting for an excuse to crack down. Getting caught meant solitary confinement or worse. The thought of being locked away, isolated from the world, was a constant fear that gnawed at the back of his mind. Getting caught meant solitary confinement or worse. The isolation, the darkness, the silence. It was a fate worse than death for many inmates. The thought of being cut off from the world, from the small comforts and connections that made life bearable, was a terrifying prospect. But he also knew this was his chance to prove himself, to earn a place in this unforgiving world. Sean had always been a fighter, always looking for a way to rise above his circumstances. This was his opportunity to show what he was made of, to prove that he was more than just another inmate. He looked Lemon in the eye, a silent promise passing between them. In that moment, a bond was formed, a mutual understanding that went beyond words. Sean knew that Lemon was taking a risk by trusting him, and he was determined not to let him down.
I'm in. With those two words, Sean's fate was sealed. He had made his choice, and there was no turning back. He was ready to step into the world of the underground store, to learn the ropes and prove his worth.
And so, Sean became Lemon's right-hand man. He was no longer just another inmate, he was part of something bigger, something that gave him purpose and direction. Under Lemon's guidance, Sean began to navigate the complex web of the prison economy. He learned the intricacies of the prison black market, the unspoken rules and hidden dangers. Every transaction was a lesson, every deal a test of his skills and instincts. Sean quickly realized that the black market was a world unto itself, with its own set of rules and hierarchies, the ebb and flow of supply and demand. He learned to anticipate the needs of the inmates, to predict what items would be in high demand and when. It was a delicate balance, a constant juggling act that required both intuition and strategy. He discovered a talent for negotiation, a way of turning even the most difficult situations to his advantage. Sean's ability to read people, to understand their motivations and desires, made him a formidable negotiator. He knew when to push and when to pull back, when to make a deal and when to walk away. A way of diffusing tension with a calm demeanor and a level gaze. In a world where tempers flared and violence was always just a heartbeat away, Sean's calm and composed demeanor was a valuable asset. He had a way of calming even the most volatile situations, of diffusing tension with just a few well-chosen words. He earned the respect of the other inmates, not through intimidation, but through fairness and integrity. Sean's reputation grew, and with it, his influence. He became known as someone who could be trusted, someone who kept his word and treated others with respect. It was a rare quality in the harsh world of the prison, and it earned him the loyalty of his peers. He was no longer the scared kid who had walked through those gates. The transformation was complete. Sean had grown, had evolved into someone who could hold his own in the brutal environment of the prison. He had found his place, his purpose, and he was determined to make the most of it. He was Sean, Lemon's trusted lieutenant, a man making his own way in this concrete jungle. In the end, it wasn't just about survival. It was about thriving, about finding a way to rise above the chaos and make a mark. Sean had done that, and he was ready for whatever came next. The prison yard was a tinderbox, always on the verge of igniting. The air was thick with unspoken threats and simmering hostilities, a powder keg waiting for a spark. Every corner of the yard held its own story of survival, betrayal, and the constant struggle for dominance. Gangs ruled with an iron fist, their codes of conduct etched in blood and violence. These groups were more than just collections of individuals. They were families bound by necessity and fear. Their influence extended to every aspect of prison life, from the food you ate to the air you breathed. Navigating this volatile landscape required a delicate touch, a keen understanding of the power dynamics at play. It was a game of chess where every move could mean the difference between life and death. One wrong step, one miscalculated word, and the consequences could be dire. Lemon, with his sharp mind and innate ability to read people, had established his own set of rules. He was a man who understood the unspoken laws of the yard, the invisible lines that one dared not cross. His wisdom and leadership were his armor, his tools for survival in this harsh environment.
Respect is earned, not demanded. In a place where every action is scrutinized, respect is the currency that buys you peace and safety. It's a fragile thing, easily lost and hard to regain. And trust? Trust is worth more than gold in this place. It's the foundation upon which alliances are built and the glue that holds fragile truces together. Without trust, you're alone, vulnerable and exposed.
One sweltering afternoon, tension crackled in the air. The heat was oppressive, adding to the already charged atmosphere. Inmates moved sluggishly, their tempers frayed by the relentless sun. Two inmates, their faces contorted with rage, stood nose to nose, their voices a venomous hiss. The argument had started over something trivial, but in this environment, even the smallest slight could escalate into violence. A dispute over a gambling debt, a misplaced glance, anything could set them off. In the yard, every interaction was a potential flashpoint, every disagreement a possible prelude to bloodshed. The crowd, a mixture of apprehension and morbid curiosity, parted like the Red Sea, creating a circle of silence around the brewing storm. Eyes watched intently, some hoping for a resolution, others eager for the spectacle of violence. Lemon, sensing the danger, didn't hesitate. He knew that if this conflict escalated, it could lead to a full-blown riot. His instincts, honed by years of navigating this treacherous terrain, kicked in. He stepped between the two men, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. His presence alone was enough to command attention, to make people pause and reconsider their actions. His voice, calm and steady, cut through the tension. "This ain't the way, brothers," he said, his words carrying the weight of authority and experience.
This ain't the way, brothers. We all bleed the same color in here. In this place, we have to look out for each other because no one else will. We have to find a way to coexist, to survive. We all bleed the same color in here. Let's settle this like men, not animals. We have enough enemies outside these walls. We don't need to be enemies to each other. Let's settle this like men, not animals. His words resonated with the crowd, a reminder of their shared humanity and the need for solidarity in the face of adversity.
His words, imbued with the quiet authority he commanded, had a calming effect. The crowd began to disperse, the immediate threat of violence averted. The two inmates, their anger momentarily forgotten, looked at each other, then at Lemon. They were taken aback by his intervention, by the power of his words. The tension, though still palpable, began to dissipate. The yard, once a cauldron of potential violence, started to return to its usual state of uneasy calm. Lemon, with a few carefully chosen words, had averted a disaster. He had reminded everyone of the fragile peace that held their world together. He had enforced his law, not with violence but with wisdom and respect. In a place where might often made right, Lemon's approach was a beacon of hope, a testament to the power of understanding and empathy.